If you're considering divorce in Washington State, you want to be clear on your finances. What this will include is your bank accounts, your credit cards, and any other type of assets you may have. So what you want to know is what you own, what you owe, and what your monthly expenses may look like. Additionally, if possible, you'll want to create an emergency fund. You'll want to create a basic budget. You want to know what your income is and what your expenses are. And divorce can be hard and certainly can be expensive. So you want to make sure that if you have any unnecessary expenses, you get them under wraps before you start the process. Other things you want to consider is where you may live. When you're going through divorce, you may or may not end up in the family home. If you do not end up in the family home, then you have to determine what type of rent you can afford and where you want to live, and whether or not that will work for you and your children. Additionally, when one goes through divorce, they're losing one of the parents, which means you're losing some of your child care. So if you work, you're going to have to consider how much it's going to take to pay child care expenses, or whether or not you'll have help from family and friends. When you're headed for divorce, you need to start thinking about what kind of financial documents you should be collecting. Those could include W-2s, pay stubs, tax returns, and other financial documents. When you're heading to divorce and you have children, you also need to collect their documents. These can include medical records, school schedules, and child care expenses. The more you have your ducks in a row at the beginning of the divorce, the smoother the process will be. If you're a mess, don't know where the documents are, or just generally have no idea what you're doing, it can make the process much more difficult. The most important thing when determining who you want to represent you in your divorce is whether or not you're comfortable with that person. If you don't have a level of comfort with your attorney, it's going to make the process much, much more difficult, because you and your attorney may end up having differences of opinion. The best way to find an attorney in your own divorce is do your homework, do the research, talk to friends, talk to other attorneys, read reviews. These things give you a great insight into what kind of person you may be working with. When working with a divorce attorney, communication is key. If you're not able to communicate your wants, your needs, and your desires, you can't expect your attorney to know what you want in your day of court. When I was going through my own divorce, the most important thing for me when choosing an attorney was finding somebody I was comfortable with and I could communicate with. I was very fortunate when I worked with the attorney that I had, that he understood what my wants, my needs, and my desires were, and made sure that those were said during court hearings and definitely told to the other side. Before going through the process of the divorce, it's very important to do your homework. It's very important to be prepared. These are very, very emotional times. If you are prepared, both mentally and emotionally, it will make the process much, much easier to go through. Now, make no mistake, divorce is not fun. However, if you're prepared and ready to go through the process, you'll be much better off on the other side. When going through the divorce process, you don't want to rush any decisions. Generally, rushed decisions in a divorce can lead to regret. Just remember, at the end of this process, the divorce is permanent. However, you may still have ties to the other party, especially if you have children. If you have any questions about preparing for divorce, please give us a call. At Johnson Law Firm, we fight for families and their fresh start.